Alright, so in this walkthrough, we're going to talk about aerial powers. Now, aerial powers, she's slated as an 1100 and stuff. She plays way stronger than that. You know, she knows the E4, D4, knight F3 lines extremely well. Um, so, which, like, however, there's too many variations to the middle game and stuff. So, what I decided, what a person can do is they can find holes in the opening and stuff. Like it's interesting because playing as white and stuff, you're up a half move, which means your distance to checkmate against your opponent is always shorter than your opponent's checkmate. However, and stuff, um, there's the chess pieces, they move like water molecules, where you have like a garden hose spraying against another garden hose and stuff. So those water molecules can kind of weave in with each other and stuff. Maybe water doesn't do that as well as some other liquids and stuff. You could think of it as streams of gas and stuff. Like you could think of chess pieces as like, you know, molecules of gas spraying at each other. So you have like, you know, some oxygen spraying at some other oxygen gas and stuff. And, you know, so those initial conditions, the statics, bear little to nothing to the dynamics and stuff. So there's when you have a maximum amount of possible variations from the first move. So in there and stuff, you could actually pay out a tempo to create what's called like a powder keg scenario and stuff. Um, it's there's other things you can invest into the matter, involving the theory and information and stuff to to counteract that, you know, that loss in a half move of tempo. And so we have this, you know, ready gambit and stuff that I tried. I saw Magnus Carlsen do this once in a video and stuff for a joke. Um, but it could actually be extremely threatening if you're playing at white. So uh, like from here, you just take out the knight and stuff. Knight f3 isn't the most optimal move in terms of center pawns and stuff. Well, at least in the current day, it isn't. The chess engines, they don't keep they don't stick to their own facts. Unfortunately. So then black tries e6, but you move the knight back because you want flexibility of variation and stuff. This makes e6 even more of a blunder because the knight is inherently more flexible and stuff. Knights are so essential to winning games. Um, that's why they tend to sometimes be stronger than bishops. Bishops are generally stronger than knights. Stockfish generally favors bishops more than knights and stuff, as meaning more than 50% of the time. But um, the sharp chess beats out general or mechanical chess and stuff. It just does. So, um, you know, sharp chess is what generated Ziggy tables and stuff. The Ziggy tables is basically solutions for six pieces total on the board, or 6 versus 6 pieces, or something like that. But those are 100% accurate tables, or they're just, you know, they just beat out everything. So you have to know that. So with by starting off with the knight and stuff, you make your opponent's first move even worse because you could just move that knight back, and then um, they're trying to control the diagonal of bishop c5 and stuff, trying to go for the advantages of, I believe, you know, Sicilian Baudelaire attack or something at higher efficiency. The problem with this is they didn't think about what squares become strong and what squares become weak. So here's this and stuff. I want to force my control of the center. So I'm going to outpost my pawn right here, because if I were to simply attack this bishop and stuff, um, I'm like I'm still giving I'm giving black interference in the center. That's not good. That's not necessarily an advantage. So here, now I have a stronger center. I have a pawn structure in the center of 3 pawns and stuff. That kicks the bishop. And so going into the solution and stuff, I paid out a half move of tempo for all of these realizable benefits by capitalizing on the weak squares. From here, I want to just have efficient development and stuff. I want a pawn majority in the center. That is generally a boon and stuff because the pawns can promote later and stuff like that. There's so many variations. If if I don't like if I don't play that, then I don't get to do this. So 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 Ariel and stuff doesn't fully understand the opening from the first move and stuff. Um, the computer's probably just reading off of memory and not really calculating. So that's what's going on. Um, Ariel has to respond to this and stuff. It says going to lose a bishop, not ideal and stuff. But see, this is complete nonsense and stuff because if I take that queen and stuff, I have an open position that's developed towards the center and stuff. Black's pieces are well behind in development and stuff, meaning their ability to attack is feints at best and stuff. And if you permit those feints to devastate you, then it's a huge blunder. So it's hardly best play. Here, black takes back with a knight. That would normally um, be undesirable, except in stuff. I'm weakening the king side already because I have a developed um, most efficient tempo to checkmate the king, and I'm seeing it, and I'm using that to force the computer to react and stuff. If the computer's reacting, it's going to grab at air. If a human's reacting, it's going to grab at air, probably even harder. And if it's going to grab at air, you have something akin to a gambit or a mistake that you can punish and punish and punish and stuff. You can devastate your opponent's pieces like that. So that's some of the ideas that are coming into play with beating this bot here. And then, you know, I don't get the queen, unfortunately, but it's I can still press a threat and stuff because of the totally proven chess theory and stuff that you need to have um, majority spatial control from the opening and have an efficient opening, get an efficient development, and then you want to sharpen that to attack your opponent's to threaten your opponent's king side, devastate the pieces that your opponent's using to defend their king and stuff, and then basically maximize pressure and resistance to uh, to make force a checkmate, eventually force a checkmate in one and stuff. If you're thinking of checkmate in two and stuff, it's even more wishful thinking. You want to minimize wishful thinking and stuff. Um, so here I have my main attack going pretty well and stuff. The computer from here still doesn't see that I have a tempo to attack. Here, Ariel doesn't take back and stuff. I mean, that's not necessarily a loss because, you know, it's a forcing move. They must take and stuff because if they don't, they're still not playing optimally, but they're in a forced checkmate line here. This is a serious blunder here. Ariel could have interfered with both the queen and the bishop and stuff. That would have stopped the attack. However, if she interfered with the queen and stuff, she loses that queen. I could take it with my queen. I could take it with my rook. Ideally, more with the queen and stuff because his rook lifted over here and stuff is going to be is a slow piece and it's surrounded by a bunch of by a bunch of interfering material and stuff. Rooks are already interfered with enough and stuff. So to begin with, because of they move on the file and the rank and stuff, which is it makes them it makes them like a wagon that it's pretty bad. I don't think this is a true brilliancy here because it's not that deep it just it's just I just recalculated as I was playing in my head. So, um, and then boom, back rank checkmate. But yeah, aerial powers has a huge hole in her opening, um, and which forces her to be reactive and stuff. And you might actually get a lot of bots with this ready gambit right here. You know, I know it's. I mean, maybe it's not the ready game. I don't know what to call it, but I'll just download the PGN for later. Starting position. Anyway, so yeah, that's how you beat aerial powers and stuff. Um, Easily the hardest 1100, easily. I think her real strength is much higher than that. Um, I I lost quite. It's a person can lose many times before uh, before playing against her because her that bot's knowledge of e4 d4 and knight f3 is very deep. Can be very deep if you don't try to um, if you don't consider enough different ideas. And yeah, not considering enough different ideas is definitely one of the biggest killers in chess. Um, Chess is a thinking game. If you're playing Blitz and other chess variants with a lot of time controls, you're not really playing. That's not real chess. That's not what it is. Um, so yeah, I hope this walkthrough is helpful for you. I'll just quickly go through the moves so you can see how the attack went and stuff. And there.